Before we begin, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to Whispers of the Dark, and tell me in the comments if you've ever felt like someone was watching you while you slept. Now, turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and listen carefully. Because tonight you'll discover that sometimes the watcher isn't outside your window. It's already in your room. I used to believe that fear was just an illusion, something the brain created to fill the silence of the night. A sound, a shadow, a trick of the mind. But that belief shattered the night I bought the camera. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. Just another late-night purchase, something to distract me from the emptiness of my apartment. The online ad was simple. Old camera, good condition, cheap. The picture showed a scratched lens, a dented metal body, and a faint reflection in the glass, almost like an eye staring back. The description said it belonged to a man who'd moved away. Something about it drew me in. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was something else. The next day, the seller came to deliver it in person. He was thin, pale, and trembled slightly as he stood at my door. His eyes darted around, never quite meeting mine. When I handed him the cash, his fingers brushed against mine, and a jolt of cold shot up my arm. He held the camera tightly, as if reluctant to let it go. Before leaving, he finally looked straight at me, his eyes wide with a desperate urgency. His voice cracked as he said, "Don't watch the videos." I managed a nervous laugh, but he didn't react. He just turned and practically fled from my doorstep. That night, I placed the camera on my desk. I told myself I'd check it in the morning, but I couldn't stop glancing at it. The room felt colder with it there. Every time the light from my monitor flickered, the lens seemed to glint, like a small red pupil reflecting the room. I could have sworn it shifted slightly, just a millimeter, whenever I wasn't looking directly at it. It made no sense, but an unnerving feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. That night, I didn't sleep. 3 days later, curiosity finally won. The camera felt heavy in my hands, colder than it should have been, almost as if it absorbed the warmth from my skin. When I pressed the power button, a faint mechanical whir filled the silent room. A single red light blinked to life. A memory card was already inside. I navigated the menu. 57 video files, no dates, no names, just rows of static-filled thumbnails. My heart hammered against my ribs as I opened the first one. The footage was grainy but clear enough. A bedroom, a person sleeping peacefully under the covers. The shot was perfectly still. Someone had placed the camera carefully, aiming straight at the bed. Hours passed on the screen with no movement, just the faint rhythmic sound of slow breathing. The second video was the same person, same angle. The third, however, was closer. The camera had been moved. The next video was closer still. By the 10th file, the lens was right beside the sleeper's face. You could see every breath, every slight twitch of their eyelids. But behind the bed, in the deep, dark corner of the room, something shifted. A shadow. Small at first. Deliberate. I leaned forward, my face inches from the screen, and rewound the clip. I turned up the volume, straining to hear over the low hum of the recording. That's when I heard it. A whisper, low and fragile, like dry leaves scraping across pavement. "Look at me." I froze, a chill crawling up my spine. The voice sounded almost human. It sounded almost like mine. I frantically skipped through the next few files, my pulse quickening with each click. The room was always the same, but now I saw something else in the murky background. Faint reflections on the window, outlines in the darkness, a shape that seemed to move closer, more defined each night. It wasn't the person in the bed. It wasn't a trick of the camera's shadow. It was someone else. Then I saw it. I saw it clearly for the first time, the specific pattern on the curtains, the arrangement of books on the nightstand, the same tiny scratch on the electrical outlet near the bed. My blood ran cold, It wasn't just any bedroom. It was my bedroom. The realization hit me so hard, I dropped the camera onto the floor. I whipped my head around, staring at my own bed. The same sheets, the same angle of moonlight filtering through the window. The videos had been filmed here, in my room. My first thought was that it had to be a prank, an elaborate, cruel trick. But each clip had the same timestamp in the corner, 3:17 a.m., the exact time I often woke up from nightmares, drenched in sweat. That night, I didn't even try to sleep. I sat in a chair in the corner, my back to the wall, watching the door, listening for any sound. For hours, nothing happened. The silence was absolute. Until it broke. A single, sharp click, mechanical, chillingly familiar. It was the same sound the camera made when it started recording. My chest tightened. The sound had come from the other side of the room. I slowly, deliberately turned my head. The small red light was glowing. The camera was on. It was recording. I pushed myself out of the chair, my legs shaking, and reached for it slowly. My hand trembled so hard the lens seemed to vibrate with me. On the tiny screen, a live image appeared. The room, my bed, and me sitting there in the chair holding the camera, my own terrified face staring back from the screen. But then something else moved, directly behind me in the reflection. I spun around. Nothing, just darkness. I looked back at the camera's screen. The figure was still there, tall, impossibly still, standing in the corner where I had just been sitting, watching. My thumb slammed the stop button. The screen went black. Then I heard it again. A click, not from the camera in my hands. It came from the darkness right behind me. My breath caught in my throat. I didn't move, didn't blink. The air turned heavy, suffocating, and then a whisper brushed against my ear, so close I could feel the cold breath of it. You looked at me. I don't remember how long I sat frozen like that. When the first rays of sun pierced the window, I was still there, staring at the now empty corner. The camera was gone. Since that night, I can't sleep without the lights on. I've thrown out every camera, every phone, every device with a lens. But sometimes, always at 3:17 a.m., I still hear it. That faint mechanical click, that horrifying whisper. You looked at me. And every time, I know I'm not alone, because when the sound stops, I can feel it. Something standing just beyond the edge of the light. Still watching, still recording. Thank you for listening to Whispers of the Dark. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to follow and subscribe for more tales from the shadows.